as they enter a seventh day. Around 150 Palestinians have been killed and 10 Israelis. Amid mounting international concern about the impact on civilians, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Hamas's rocket barrages were to blame and that his country had the right to defend
Now, you need a
itself.
revolution in Israel to get rid of Netanyahu.
Forcefully to these attacks,
Screw that
and we
fascist.
will continue to respond forcefully until the security of our people is
Screw you, Netanyahu.
and restored.
Terrorist.
We've eliminated dozens of Hamas terrorists and taken out hundreds of terrorist sites.
Take yourself out. You're the terrorist.
That Hamas used to plan and perpetrate these attacks.
And the journalism
Netanyahu
building.
spoke to President Biden on the phone after Israeli airstrikes on Saturday brought down a tower block in Gaza that housed foreign media organizations, including the Associated Press news agency.
Oh no!
AP called the attack shocking and horrifying.
Other people.
Press freedom groups have accused the Israeli military of trying to censor coverage.
Of course they're censoring stuff because they're terrorists.
The tower block housed a Hamas intelligence unit. AP president and CEO.
Yeah, journalism is intelligence, and they don't want intelligence.
To verify the Israeli statement.
We would never put our journalists knowingly in harm's way. So we had been checking. We check in regularly. We do all we can to assess the risk and whether Hamas is operating in the building. We had no sense that they were, but I cannot tell you definitively one way or the other.
Stop
the
kowtowing.
Spokesman for the Israeli Defense Forces was
you know they just attacked the journalists.
Provide evidence that Hamas had been
no, they can't provide evidence. We can't provide evidence that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction.
I fully understand the logic of the request. I think that's perfectly natural. And
but we're going to ignore it.
Decision makers in the IDF and the Israeli government are aware of it.
You don't got no evidence.
Positively.
No, you're going to respond like nothing because you got no evidence because you're liars.
Has more on the downing of the media building and on the frantic rescue efforts at a refugee camp in the aftermath of Israeli airstrikes that killed 10 members of one family.
They made desperate attempts to find survivors in the remains of the flattened 3-story house in Shati camp in Gaza, but 10 civilians were killed. Oh God, he's saying, take your revenge. Mohammed al-Hadidi lost his wife and 4 small sons.
Maybe try some new gods too if your gods aren't getting revenge fast enough for you.
With a broken thigh. His mother, Suhaid, was buried with her 4 dead boys and with her sister-in-law and 4 of her children.
But God is not with the Israelites, I can tell you that. Not Netanyahu, not that terrorist.
A journalist from the American news agency, the AP,
or the God that's with him will fall, the devil.
Get equipment from their Gaza office.
He's got Putin, Trump's got the devil with him.
The building, also used by Al Jazeera TV, was destroyed. Israel said its other tenants included Hamas. Both news organizations condemned.
Yeah, we could say that there's a Trumper squatting at CNN. We could say there's a Trumper squatting at MSNBC.
They call al-Nakba, Israel's independence in
you gonna want somebody to bomb you though?
In that war, more than 700
don't put up with it.
Palestinians fled or were expelled, which for these people is the original sin in this conflict.
You can't blame Hamas for attacking or throwing some small rockets. Israel has a...
Small rockets? They killed someone today.
How many?
Whine harder.
In Gaza?
This is Sheikh Jarrah.
Yeah, stop complaining about people getting killed if you're going to act like one life is worth 10 of the other.
Palestinians from their homes.
Stop killing anybody if you don't want people killed.
There was an assumption among some in Israel that the conflict was more or less over and simply had to be managed. Now, the tension here and the
I think they fucked up big time now. I think they're going to turn the entire world, even America, against Israel because it's a rogue terrorist state.
Protests around the world to show solidarity with the Palestinians. Demonstrators from Canada to Japan waved flags.
Let's ramp this up. Let's get Black Lives Matter and PLO together and finish this thing off.
Tear gas to disperse an illegal demonstration. In London, huge crowds marched on the Israeli embassy.
We can end fascism in every country. We can end it in Russia. We can end it in Israel. We can end it in Brazil. We can end it in India. We can end it in USA. We can end all the fascism.
around the
all
world.
together.
New Zealand
Y'all put it in a basket,
we've
we'll
just
throw
seen
that
of
basket right in
Washington,
hell.
DC and New York. The protesters have all had the same message, calling for the international community to do more. In London, as you said, there were huge crowds. Organisers said there were
We can
about
take over your
100,000
governments
people
if we
there.
can take over
They
this
marched from
government
Hyde
and every
Park
other
to the
government
Israeli
if the
embassy.
governments don't
There were
step up
also
to help
events in
people.
Madrid and Rome.
It's on now,
In Paris,
folks.
it did end in confrontations with tear gas and water cannons. That was because the event had been banned because authorities there feared that it may lead to violence like what was seen in 2014.
It sounds like it did
when
lead
a
to
similar
violence when
event
the
led
authorities
to
used the
targeting of
violence.
synagogues and Jewish-owned businesses. There was also police called in to disperse crowds in Berlin. So not all peaceful.
Well, you got a lot of
There were
Nazis
large
in
protests as
Berlin.
well in Arab countries,
You got a lot of
Iraq,
people who are just
Lebanon,
against
Tunisia.
Jewish
One
people.
lady we
But no,
heard
we need to
from
be
in
against
Tunisia said,
terrorists.
Palestinians,
And
we
we'll
want
make
to
it
tell you
clear.
that your message is our
Putin's a
message, that
terrorist.
your
Trump's
cause
a
is our
terrorist.
cause. And then there was
Netanyahu's a
also protest
terrorist.
in Latin America,
Modi's a
South
terrorist.
America and Canada, and there are
Bolsonaro's
many
a
more protests
terrorist.
planned into Sunday and into next week.
And as well as these protests, there have also been intense diplomatic efforts. We've got envoys from the United States, from the UN and Egypt
Get to
working
envoying.
to try to restore calm. But as yet, they haven't really managed to make much progress.
Maybe you should just
have they?
haul
That's
Netanyahu
right. The
in.
fighting continues, and international efforts have yet to show
Cut off
any
the
signs
head.
of progress. Later on Sunday, the UN
Haul
Security
Putin
Council
in.
is due
Haul
to meet.
Trump
It was
in.
supposed to meet on
Cut
Friday,
off the
but the US, of
heads.
course, blocked that move. It said it wanted to give diplomacy a chance to work. That's led to some criticism of the US and also Joe Biden. He's been known to be very pro-Israel. So certainly the international community is under a lot of pressure to do more, and we'll see what comes out of
Two
this
pro-terrorists
meeting on
here
Sunday.
too. He's letting the Trumpers off the hook. He hadn't
Monday is a day
rounded
of
up Trump
hope in
yet.
England. Coronavirus restrictions are being eased following the success of the vaccination program. But that
And they
hope
don't
is
need to
mixed with
relinquish mask
anxiety as the
mandates either.
recently
That's
detected
stupid.
Indian variant has more than doubled in the past week.
Y'all are trying to keep the
The
Trump
Doctors Union,
genocide
the
going
British
on,
Medical
trying to keep the Trump
Association, says
virus
it's
going on, but
concerned that
you get what you
cases
get
may
for it. We're not
surge
going
again,
back to work.
and government scientific